While Elio was yet another massive flop for Disney and the single biggest failure in Pixar history, many were pleasantly surprised that for all its mundaneness, the movie had a distinct lack of LGBTQIAP+ messaging. Well, it now transpires the movie initially was a full-on propaganda piece that essentially had to be retooled from scratch in order to be releasable. That, however, is just a symptom of the far more insidious root problem that is destroying everything Disney. Let's look at the bigger picture here. The Elio revelations came to us from The Hollywood Reporter, so let's begin with those and explore the symptom in order to get to the underlying problem. The Hollywood Reporter writes, "Those who worked at Pixar while its latest film release, Elio, was in production were delighted by footage they saw roughly 2 years ago. Among the moments cited as favorites by those at the animation studio at the time included a sequence in which the titular boy collected trash on the beach and turned it into homemade apparel that included a pink tank top. The movie's team would refer to Elio showing this off to a hermit crab as his trash-on show." That right there tells us right away that the Pixar staffers are atypical of the population at large, because only activists of the most extreme variety would be delighted at something like that. Normal people all over the world would instantly recognize that as propaganda and recoil from it. Luckily, what passes for the adults at the studio realized this, because nothing of the sort was in the retooled movie. The story continues, and here we get to why the movie was creatively compromised from the get-go. According to multiple insiders who spoke to The Hollywood Reporter, Elio was initially portrayed as a queer-coded character, reflecting original director Adrian Molina's identity as an openly gay filmmaker. To be clear, there ain't nothing wrong with being gay or bringing that perspective as a filmmaker. Case in point, I'm a huge fan of both the writings and movies of Clive Barker, and the queerness is pretty darn central there. But Clive Barker never made any 200 million plus animated propaganda pieces aimed squarely at children and family audiences released under the Pixar and Disney banners. To wit, the very next paragraph reads, "Other sources say that Molina did not intend the film to be a coming-out story, as the character is 11. But as is made apparent from the rest of this whole exposé, those sources are lying through their teeth. Because it's pretty darn clear that Elio was gay, and the whole movie was a coming-out-as-gay story without anything else to it." But while the movie was being developed, Disney started getting some pretty clear and unmistakable feedback from audiences worldwide that they were not having the propaganda Disney was spewing out. So they started making some course corrections. The write-up continues. "This characterization gradually faded away throughout the production process as Elio became more masculine following feedback from leadership. Gone were not only such direct examples of his passion for environmentalism and fashion, but also a scene in Elio's bedroom with pictures suggesting a male crush." Detailing how the executives decided to roll all of this back, the story reads, "The writing was first on the wall for the troubled production when the film from Molina, known as the co-director of Pixar's Oscar-winning 2017 hit Coco, conducted an early test screening in Arizona. Although viewers expressed how much they enjoyed the movie, they were also asked how many of them would see it in a theater. And not a single hand was raised, according to a source with knowledge of the event. That sounded alarm bells for studio brass. As well it should, because that test audience were just being polite when they said they enjoyed the activist coming out as gay version of the movie. They obviously hated the propaganda they had just been served, but they didn't want the nice and virtuous people from Disney and Pixar to think them any less virtuous, morally upstanding and with the times citizens, so even if they didn't, they said they liked the movie. But when asked if they would go see it in theaters, something they could answer without coming across as, less enlightened, the truth came out, and Disney reacted accordingly, demanding changes, which caused the original director to leave the project while someone else more or less remade the whole movie, greatly ballooning the production budget in the process and therefore the immensity of the loss that Disney and Pixar will incur on this project that honestly should never have been completed or released. In retrospect, the best decision for Disney's shareholders would have been to pull a SAS law and scrap the entire project Batgirl style. Never complete it and never release it, because all it was ever going to do was incur short-term losses and inflict long-term brand damage, both of which are happening right now as we speak. So why didn't they just scrap it? Because clearly, Elio was only ever about him coming out as gay. There was nothing else to it. As stated elsewhere, once you remove that aspect from the story, it's a movie about nothing that just goes through the motions without purpose or meaning. Well, let's see why they still released it, and this goes to the heart of Disney's problem. The article brings up the following quote. "I was deeply saddened and aggrieved by the changes that were made," says former Pixar assistant editor Sarah Ligotic, who provided feedback during Elio production as a member of the company's internal LGBTQ group Pixpride. Pixpride. That's Pixar's own special interest group for LGBTQIAP+ employees and representation. Every division within Disney has at least one such group. Some have more, and they also have similar special interest groups for pretty much every other so-called underrepresented group under the sun. And I say so-called, for in Disney, they're all vastly overrepresented relative to the population at large. The one group that is underrepresented relative to the population, and which has no special interest group, is straight white males, who by implication are seen as the opposition by all the other special interest groups, of which Disney and its subsidiaries have way, way too many. For Disney, the upside with this is that they get to brag that they have a perfect 100% CEI score from the Human Rights Campaign, which means that both Soros and Klaus Schwab will look at Disney with favor. And the company will be seen as unattractive as an employer as they come for activists of all varieties. But the downside of Disney enabling and deferring to all of these special interest groups is that they make Disney a fractured, toxic company, where staffers identify by their immutable characteristics first and as Disney employees only second. And their primary loyalty is also going to be to the goals of the group they identify with, not the company as a whole. A project like Elio could never have come out of the Pixar of old, as back then the entire staff worked towards entertaining the audience, and they would have known message-driven propaganda like Elio initially was could never have done that. But a special interest group like Pixpride, however, couldn't care less about the company and its brand. Propaganda is all they are about. The problem Disney is facing is that in their misguided DEI drive, they have not only enabled activist crazies by allowing them to start their own special interest groups within the company that undermine the overall well-being of the company and its shareholders. They have also gone out of their way to hire as many crazies as they possibly can, and now the company as a whole is, in a sense, being held hostage by these crazies. Because if Disney doesn't do what they want and put out movies like Elio, well then maybe that CEI score may sink below that magic 100%. Now note, I'm not saying that every employee that belongs to some special interest group is a crazy, far from it. Even the initial director behind Elio worked on the fantastic Coco before, so he obviously can do great work when that is what is expected of him. But when a company creates a ton of special interest groups, and enable them to work on their own agenda in direct opposition to the company's interests. That's gonna encourage the crazies to come out of the woodwork. Disney's problem right now then is that they have a company full of activist crazies whose loyalty lies not with the company, but with their cause of choice. Is there a way out of this pickle for Disney? There is, of course, and it's an easy one. It just involves targeted mass firings of a scale that dwarfs anything we have ever seen come out of Disney so far. But even that begins with Disney deciding what is more important: keeping their perfect CEI score or winning back the audience. Because those two are mutually exclusive. Everything they have to do to achieve one will go at the direct expense of the other. So far, Disney has chosen their CEI score and their activist staffers over the audience, though lately they appear to try to reach some kind of middle ground. But is there even a middle ground to be found here? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.